So today I'm going to show you how to do one of my favorite techniques to use in my mixed media artwork. It is the gel medium transfer technique, and it's really simple to do, so any skill level can do it and you'll get really cool results. So here's an example of some art that I made with this method. This is the gel medium transfer right here, and as you can see, it's pretty cool because the texture and the type on the newsprint shows through the image because the image ends up being transparent. And then you can also layer or mix in paint to make it different colors or paint over top of it because it's a acrylic transfer, so you can use acrylic paint with it. So the supplies you're going to need for the gel medium transfer technique are some magazine images, gel medium. You're going to need some brushes as well as a cup of water or preferably a sink to rinse your brushes out between layers of gel medium. You'll need paper towels, and you'll also need a shallow dish that you're going to fill with water to take the paper off the back of the gel medium once you're finished. So find some imagery that you want to use. There's a lot of different options. You can literally use anything to make a gel medium transfer. Like this dog's face would be kind of fun to make one out of, or faces are a good option, or buildings, really anything that you want to use. The most important thing though is to find magazine pages that aren't too glossy or coated. Some magazine pages have a really thick lamination of plastic on them that makes them glossy, and those aren't ideal for gel medium transfers because the gel medium won't be able to pick up the paper and pick up the ink to make the transfer. So this is what we're going to use to do the transfer. It's called gel medium. There's lots of different brands of it, but my favorite ones to use are the golden gel mediums. There's lots of different finishes as well. I've used matte, semi-gloss, or glossy finish. This one is a semi-gloss, which I think blends the most easily with the different types of acrylic paint that are available, since most acrylic paint kind of has a semi-gloss sheen when it finishes drying, so I like to use this one the most. And as you can see, it starts off white, but it's actually going to dry clear, and that's how you get the transparent image. So I'm gonna do a transfer of these guys riding on the mopeds for my example today. So you're going to just apply a very thin layer of the medium over the top of the image, and you want to go in one direction across where you want the transfer to be. It's better if you make the edges of your transfer go a little bit over your subject, because you can cut it out more precisely later after you've taken the paper back off. It's much easier to make a big area of a transfer rather than trying to get into all the little detail places, as we'll see when we try to take the paper off. So you just paint it on in a very thin layer, strokes going all the same direction. In this case I'm going horizontally, and you'll just paint it in a thin layer and let it dry. So once you've finished all your transfers that you've done, and you've done all the layers, the first layer, and you're going to let it dry, you want to just take the brush and scrape the extra gel medium back into the jar so you can reuse it. And then you want to make sure to wash off your brush really thoroughly with soap and water in between each layer, because it will dry out your brush and make all the bristles stick together. So this picture, I've already have a layer dry and ready to go. You can kind of see the glossy sheen is a little bit different than the plain paper. It's a really thin coat, and we're going to paint the second layer. So the first brush strokes I did were going horizontally, and now my second layer I want them to go vertically, because that's how you'll get strength into your transfer, and you'll also have less surface texture if you do it like this, and it will match your canvas a little better as well, which is always nice. So again, it's the same kind of technique. You're just painting a really thin layer over the top of your area that you already painted gel medium on, just like this, and then you're going to let that dry again and scrape your extra gel medium back into the jar so you can reuse it. So you want to build up about 6 to 8 layers of gel medium on your transfer to ensure that it's going to be thick enough that it won't tear when you put it in water to rub the paper off the back. So I'm going to do another layer. This one has about 3 layers. I'm just adding the 4th. Again, you're going to alternate going horizontally 1 layer, let that dry, and then you're gonna go vertically on the next layer, let that dry. And then once you've built up about 6 to 8 layers, I think it's most beneficial to let the gel medium dry overnight so that all the layers of gel medium have a chance to become thoroughly dry before you submerge it in the water to remove the paper. Okay, so now comes the best part of revealing your transfers and taking off the paper. So the first thing you need to do is cut away all the extra paper around the image that you're transferring so that you don't have so much paper in the water when you're working with it. And you can either cut it so that the edges of the transfer are still there and you'll get kind of like a lacy effect on the edge, or you can go in and like cut out, like I'll cut out this guy's head so it's more of like a specific image for you. So then what you're going to do is fill the shallow dish up with water, and then you're going to take your images and just submerge them in the water and let them sit there for a few seconds so that they can start to soak through the paper. This is another reason why I use paper that's not super glossy, because the paper will not be penetrated by the water if it's too glossy. And then basically, I'll put this closer. Basically, you just start rubbing the paper between your fingers until it starts to come off. It starts to peel off really easily. And you keep rubbing with your thumb until all the paper comes off the back. Okay, so you'll keep rubbing and you'll kind of get to the point where you feel that there's no more paper on the back of it. And once you get to that point, you're pretty much good to go. You could have a lot of artistic liberty with it. You could leave some paper still attached if you want there to be more opaque look, but as you can see, it's pretty transparent. You can see through it. And you can dry it on a paper towel, and once it's dry, it's pretty much ready to use. Okay, so here's the 2 that I did. And as you can see, the images are transparent now. You can kind of see through them. The transfers both worked really, really well. And now you just dry them off on some paper towels and they'll be ready to use. You don't have to worry about the edges curling up because you can just glue them down with more gel medium or even just regular glue when you use them on your project. You can cut them, you can tear them, you can kind of stretch them, you can do a lot of cool things with them. And this water, I wouldn't recommend dumping it down the sink. I usually just dump it in the flower bed to get rid of it. So again, here's the example of art that I made with this. You can really use your gel medium transfer for anything. I've used it in art journals. I've used it in paper. It works on paper. You can glue it onto a paper. You can use gel medium to attach it to canvas. You can glue it into a journal. You can even use gel medium to attach it to things like a candle, and it kind of burns inside and makes the image light up from inside, which is really cool. So there's lots of different ways you can use this technique. You can also tint this gel medium with acrylic paint if you want, and then you will have a tinted look to your image as long as you're using acrylic paint that's a little bit on the transparent side, not like white. The white will make it opaque. And yeah, it's really easy. Anyone can do it, and it always comes out really exciting.